Just get it all in there. And I'm going to kind of get it mixed in before I put it back on the fire. It's immediately going to start making lumps. It's immediately going to look really lumpy, and you're going to be worried that you just ruined your product. But you haven't. I'm just going to make sure it's well mixed here before I go putting it on the fire again. And I'm going to keep mixing it. I'm going to go around and make sure I scrape down in the corners. I want to make sure it's all thoroughly mixed. And I'm going to keep going because it's cooking. It's cooking fast. What I'm looking for here is not only to cook it, but I'll know it's pretty cooked if it starts forming a pretty firm film on the bottom of your pan. All this vigorous mixing also knocks out the lumps.
It literally knocks them out.
That's the way you know it's done, right? When it's got that film in the bottom of the pan.
Exactly. You start getting a nice film on the bottom of your pan. It's not something like this. It's not a film where it's burnt or anything like that, but it starts to form a really distinct film on the bottom of your pan.
Break time. Would it be better to use a whisk?
Well, a whisk you'll find will just get completely covered with the stuff. It'll get inside the whisk. But what you'll notice in here, I don't know if you're seeing it, but there's a pretty good film on the inside of this pot.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
It starts to form pretty good on the inside there. And it's now cooked, so what I'm going to go do is I'm going to take this over here to my mixer, and I'm going to put this in the mixing bowl. We're going to cool it down a little bit on the mixer. Here it goes. Yeah, as I say, we don't want to get to a point where it burns because we don't want to have a problem with cleaning our pot or with causing our pâte à choux to be, you know, brown in any way. So on the mixer it goes. Still plugged in. I'm going to turn it to speed 2. And you'll see all the steam escape out of here. It just comes flying out. I don't want to put eggs in this right away. It's really hot. You'll cook the eggs. We don't want to get cooked eggs. We want the eggs to join in with all that pre-gelatinized starch and protein and form an emulsion, sort of really kind of all work together to stabilize this mixture. So as it cools down a little bit, I'm going to start adding my eggs one by one. But first, right now it's about 150 degrees or so still. It's pretty hot. I want to make sure that it's going to be reasonable enough temperature before I start adding eggs.
So, compared to what we did last time, because you had a monster, you just selected the bowl, you put it in a separate bowl, and then you just let it sit.
Really? Is that what we did?
That's what we did in garbage eggs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is quicker by far. Adding it to a mixer and paddling it cools it down just a couple minutes. It doesn't really cool down completely. What's going to really cool it down is these eggs, because they're cold. So once it gets cool enough so it's not going to immediately cook the eggs, we can start adding eggs one by one. At first, as you add an egg, or two, it's going to look like spetsuli. It's going to look like noodles. It's going to look really curdled. But as the eggs come in there and start coming together, you'll notice it starts looking more creamy again. Then it's time to add another egg. One more egg. Now, there's a very good chance we're not going to use all these eggs. There may be one egg left over, maybe two. I'm going to do this until it's the right consistency. I'm not going to try to just force all these eggs in there, or my product will come out too loose and too liquid. So you can see on, the camera can see how much it looks like noodles. It looks like dumplings and noodles. But as each egg goes in, it starts getting more integrated, and it'll start to form more of an emulsion. Now it's starting to look a little more creamy. Let's put another egg in. 4 more eggs in here. I'm going to stop short after the next egg or so and see how it is. I'm going to test it. And I'll show you guys how to test it. It's not hard, but you can test it for the right amount of liquid and if it's doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah, now it's starting to get creamy. You can tell it's still a little stiff. 1 more egg. Just those 2 eggs aside, we can use them if we need. But I'm just going to see how it's doing right now. I don't know if you guys can hear it. You know the sound change? So let's test it. I'm going to take my finger, with glove on of course, and I'm going to take some Pâte Choux on my finger. And I'm going to turn the finger up over, and if a little elf hat on top goes, and just bends over, it's done. If the elf hat stays straight up, it's too dry. If the elf hat goes over really fast, you've added too much liquid. So the best thing to do is to take an egg at a time and test it. You stick your finger in. I try to make sure the elf hat's not too tall. But you can see how it hangs. It's like a little V. It just bends right over. And another way of testing this, other chefs like to do it this way. What they'll do is they'll take their mixer paddle and hold it up and just pull this up and see if it hangs in a thin stream like a V. It's like a V shape, just like that. That's a good test as well. If it can do that, you've got gluten development and you've got the egg all work together. The pre-gelatinized starch is doing its thing. So those in the back, if you don't see the V, it's really pretty distinct. Again, my finger works, I think my finger works the best. And I just hold up the little elf hat, and if it just, there it goes.
Very slowly.
Very slowly, it just bends over. The little elf hat just bends over, you know it's ready. Now, I'm going to stop there, because if I go 1 more egg, it'll be loose. If it's too loose, it's hard to pipe, and it doesn't bake correctly. And you'll know it, just by seeing it. When you try to put it in your piping bag, it'll come out the other end without squeezing. If you don't put enough water in, the product can come out more crumbly, and it can come out not quite as you expect.